like dancing, Norbit?
Eddie Murphy and Eddie Murphy star in Norbit. I'm Richard Roeper, filling in for Roger this week as the film critic from Entertainment Weekly, Lisa Schwartzbaum. Lisa, thanks for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here, thanks.
All right, let's get right to it. Our first movie is Norbit. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say it's probably the worst movie on this show, the worst movie of this month, one of the worst movies of 2007, and so far I'm being kind. Eddie Murphy plays the title nerd. He also plays Norbit's grotesque wife, Rasputia. It's not Rasputia's girth that makes her grotesque. It's the fact that her weight is the source of nearly every joke in the movie, and she's a shrill harpy.
Oh.
Mary, Mother of God!
And that's pretty much the whole movie. Rasputia is large and mean, and she terrorizes Norbit and freaks out everyone else.
Excuse me, ma'am.
What?
Are you wearing bottoms?
Of course I'm wearing bottoms.
Okay.
Stupid comedies like this almost always feature a gorgeous, sweet love interest with a small brain. Tandy Newton plays the lovely but dim-witted Kate, Norbit's childhood friend.
See, most men like a woman that got little hair. You ain't got nothing. You just skin and bone, just sitting in a chair, all bones and skin. Oh, I feel sorry for you.
Well, I just feel that we're all made exactly the way we're supposed to be.
Oh, no, hell no, I'm a Christian, and you ain't gonna sit there and blame God for how you look, okay? You don't want to push that plate away.
Now, maybe Norbit would have been interesting with Newton as the witchy wife and the mega-sized Rasputia as the nice girl. Eddie Murphy achieved comedic genius with his multiple character, two-gender work in The Nutty Professor. Here, he manages to make The Adventures of Pluto Nash only the second worst movie of his career. By the way, Lisa, that's a thumbs down, in case you were wondering.
I was a little bit in confusion there. You know, what's really amazing is that he's got this going on at the same time that he did so well in Dreamgirls, and this is just appalling. Let me say, I wanted to gnaw my arm off while I watched this. It was just
That'd be a better movie. I'd watch that. Lisa gnaws her arm off.
And
Coming to Sundance next year.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it was painful. I don't think that switching roles would make it any better. Yeah. Every single joke was offensive. Every single joke was not funny. And he seemed to be driven to make himself look terrible in every scene.
Yeah, I mean, it's offensively bad. And the one thing I have to say that I have to admire would be the makeup and special effects, because somehow, even though it's horrible, you know, Eddie's acting with Eddie, it's just unfortunate that they didn't have anything to do once they said, okay, this looks like a, different character, and he plays the Chinese character.
He plays a Chinese guy and then gets to mock Asians also. Yeah, I mean, he really was a kind of equal opportunity.
At one point, late in the movie, Norbit says to Mr. Wong, isn't that kind of racist? And I'm thinking, you could say that about the whole movie, or isn't that kind of awful, would be another thing you could
also,
say.
Eddie Murphy does this thing where he's driven to, this is not to get all feminist on you, but he does this weird stuff with women. I don't understand what his preoccupation is about making fun of women, about playing women, about doing this whole number. Yeah. It was painful.
It's mean-spirited.
It is mean-spirited. That's really it, and a huge misfire. And what were they thinking? I don't know.
Yeah, dreadful.
All right, well, listen, in talking about our next movie, Factory Girl, it's impossible not to begin with Andy Warhol's most famous quote, the one that goes, in the future, everyone will be famous for 15 minutes. Warhol's joke, of course, is that he continues to be famous 2 decades after his death, maybe just for being famous.
I'm just going to quit painting and make Edie a big star.
Anyhow, in the 1960s, Edie Sedgwick was the it girl, most often by his side, a sparkling, wealthy thing who was born into a stately Boston family and who left uptown society far behind when she entered Warhol's downtown New York salon. At the age of 28, she was dead of a drug overdose. In George Hickenlooper's troubled, hyper-stylized biopic, British cutie Sienna Miller plays Edie Sedgwick, and the amazing Australian chameleon Guy Pearce plays Warhol, and everyone works very hard at conveying 1960s fabulousness.
Hi.
Oh, it's just amazing to meet you. I think you're just a genius.
Oh.
No one is doing anything like you right now, and that in itself is a sign of brilliance, don't you think?
Well, you're the boss, Applesauce.
It's clear that in the filmmaker's eyes, there's no bigger blood-sucking vampire than Warhol, who alternates between childlike naivete and deadpan campiness. The movie's biggest lost gamble is the introduction of a musician played by Hayden Christensen, who is known only as the musician, and who represents the very opposite of Warhol's surface spectacle. He's deep, man. And Edie is drawn to him, too. See if you can catch a touch of Bob Dylan here.
The whole world's burning up, and this cat's making gods out of garbage.
Well, the whole world may be burning up, but that doesn't mean that we have to be cynical.
whole world on a string, don't you? But inside there, well, it's as empty as your friend's soup can.
Dylan is said to have written Like a Rolling Stone for Sedgwick, but sued rather than find his name anywhere near this movie. I can see why. Factory Girl has the feel of party kids playing retro dress-up. The girl herself remains unexplained. I give it a thumbs down.
Well, Lisa, I'm giving it thumbs up, even as I agree with much of what you're saying. But I think Sienna Miller does a really nice job of capturing Edie Sedgwick, who really was the forerunner to Paris Hilton and a lot of other people who are just famous for being famous.
Do we know who she's capturing? She's doing a little bit of Liza Minnelli. She's doing a little bit of accents that she's known.
That is the essence of Edie Sedgwick, who didn't know who she was, very troubled girl, and maybe didn't have a whole lot to offer other than being photogenic and being in the right place at the right time for Andy Warhol to exploit her. And you mentioned Hayden Christensen. I agree. Total misfire as this Dylan-esque guy, although, you know, hey, if you're Bob Dylan, if you got Hayden Christensen, I'd like Clooney to play me one day, you know, while we're at it.
Well, that would be quite nice. I'd like Clooney to play you one day, too.
It's a horrible, it's a bad character, it's a horrible performance, but I think Guy Pearce does a great job in capturing Andy Warhol.
Yes, except that I think about everybody was working so hard to kind of give a look of the factory era that we didn't have a cohesiveness as to what this was about. Yeah. What was Edie doing there? Who was she? The whole setup of her
I think it does tell us that, though.
Having an analyst, a therapist in the beginning and in the end, showing how she's learned and hasn't learned. It was so strained.
I think it does try too hard, and it feels like a movie that was...
where's this from going?
Well, because of the performance of Sienna Miller, because of Guy Pearce, and because I do think it captures this character. I do agree with you that it seems to be more about set design and music and mood than getting into a deep story. I don't know necessarily that there's a deep movie to be made about Edie Sedgwick. I think this pretty much
movie to be made
is about the same level. Well, there probably is, and I'd love to see it someday. But for what this is about this young, troubled, tragic woman, I think Sienna Miller's performance, Guy Pearce, and the overall feel, it's a marginal thumbs up for me.
It's a marginal thumbs up. I'm going to go with a full thumbs down.
I got that you didn't like that. All right, later in the show, is that a rocket in your barn, or are you just happy to see me? Billy Bob Thornton stars in The Astronaut Farmer.
You see, when I was a kid, they used to tell me that I could be anything I wanted to be. No matter what. And maybe I am insane, I don't know, but I still believe that.
Imagine Field of Dreams with a rocket ship. Well, you don't have to imagine it, because that's pretty much The Astronaut Farmer, one of the loopiest, inspirational dreamer movies ever. It opens in 2 weeks, and this is an early review. Billy Bob Thornton is perfectly cast as a middle-aged farmer named Charlie Farmer, that's right, who has a beautiful, supportive wife and 3 adoring children. Just about everybody in town loves Charlie, too, even though there's about a 50-50 chance he's clinically insane. You see, he's got a yearning in his heart and a rocket in the barn.
Okay, what's stop button for?
That one?
Yeah.
That's a very special button, too. That's the one that brings Daddy home. We have to have that one, because if Daddy didn't have that button, I'd be up there for a long, long time.
They never explain how Charlie, apparently working on his own with a blowtorch and a lot of trips to Home Depot, is able to construct a huge ship that would cost millions of dollars and would probably require the expertise of hundreds of technicians.
It's very simple, Mr. Farmer. It's illegal to try to obtain such high-grade fuel for private use.
Anyone trying to acquire this kind of fuel has to be considered a threat.
This is the real deal.
Well, I'm no threat.
Well, how do we know you're not building a warhead?
Because I'm not at war.
You've also got the worldwide media turning Charlie into a celebrity, and lots of speeches about how a man is nothing if he doesn't have dreams.
Is it important to you that people know the importance of space travel?
Well, I'll put it to you this way. There are a lot of people in this world that still think Michael Jackson had the first moonwalk.
Mr. Farmer, when do you plan on launching your rocket?
Soon.
Mr. Farmer, why are you doing this?
It's always been my dream.
The Astronaut Farmer is written by brothers Michael and Mark Polish, directed by Michael. They're kind of like cinematic cousins to the Coen brothers here. I can't wait to see what they'll come up with next. Maybe there'll be a movie about a couple of brothers who somehow managed to get a major movie made about a farmer who builds his own rocket ship. It sounds crazy, but thumbs up, actually.
You sound so meta. I love when you get meta on me. You know what?
My
thumb is up too. How about that in a week where there are not many thumbs to go up?
All right.
What I love about the Polish brothers, who previously did these small independent movies, is that they have these weird visions of what the country looks like. They have a weird vision of American enterprise. And just the stuff they do with the shots of farmland and strange territory is really fabulous. This was so bizarre that I didn't know where it was going from one place to another. I'm a big Billy Bob fan, and I think he manages to play the kind of weird guy, Billy Bob, but also a man who kind of has dreams.
Well, that's the thing, Lisa. I think Billy Bob made a very wise choice here and played this straight and sincere and down the middle,
right,
because
like
if he's whacked, because everything around him is so crazy and everybody else keeps saying he's nuts. Well, if he played it nuts, then it would be over the top.
Right.
But instead, no, he doesn't think it's strange at all that he's building a rocket ship in the barn and then he wants to take off.
Which is, I mean, I think they really believe that a man could do this. That's part of their thinking. And I like how they switch from these small-scale indie things to suddenly this huge Technicolor vision of what it's like to be an American hero. Of course, it's very good when you have Virginia Madsen as a wife. That also helps a man do just about anything, I'd say.
Yeah.
But I think it really
this is the most understanding. This is the most understanding family. Like basically, he is like It's a Wonderful Life. I mean, his wife, his kids.
He takes the kids out of
first
school,
teenage son in history who's not embarrassed by his dad. The little girls think they're. I mean, they think their dad's Santa Claus. You know,
but that's not bad Santa either.
Exactly, good Santa. Well done. But it's
Exactly.
kind of refreshing to see that, and for some reason, it all just works on its own crazy
bizarre,
level.
and it works.
So there you have
Okay,
it.
well, listen. Coming up next, Diane Keaton is a meddling mother in Because I Said So.
You could totally use a blender.
Looking at movies now in theaters, which I reviewed with Govindini Murty, Jennifer Garner and Catch and Release got 2 thumbs up. We split on Alpha Dog, I was right, she was wrong, and 2 thumbs up for Sarah Falls.
Please don't forget to look out for Mafioso. If you have ever seen a Godfather movie or a Mafia movie, this is where it all began, made in 1962. Fantastic and worth checking out.
Yeah, and a beautiful print.
And a beautiful print, yes. Our next movie, Because I Said So, is a case of what can happen when an actress loved for her quirky sense of style gets sloppy about the elements of that style. Diane Keaton stars in Because I Said So, playing Daphne, a divorced mother of 3 attractive and remarkably tolerant grown daughters. Obsessed with the lagging love life of her youngest single daughter, a successful caterer named Millie, played by Mandy Moore, Daphne runs a personal ad on her unsuspecting daughter's behalf. Here's how she pushes Millie's buttons as Millie prepares for a date.
I'm just sort of wondering if maybe you ought to button those buttons.
No, I like it like this.
Millie, you look like you're asking for it.
I am asking for it.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll continue. I heard that.
Here's where Daphne gets all weepy and dithery, a very unfashionable combination.
It's absolutely fine for me to teach you how to walk and talk, and then you grow up and you head off in the wrong direction toward a cliff. And I'm supposed to just stand there and wave and go, well, kids, good luck. It's Mom. I'm here. Well, I can't do that.
What's particularly dismaying about this clunky romantic comedy is how Keaton squanders so much of the affection and admiration she rightly received for playing a sexy, vital woman over 50 in Something's Gotta Give. Now, I'm here to tell Dr. Freud that was what women want, and not just because I said so.
I hated this movie. I think it's the worst performance of Diane Keaton's career.
Thank you. I was in fear that you liked it, and we would get
Lisa,
into a big
I'm telling you
fight.
right now, it's like a minstrel show for single women. It's so offensive. I was watching this thinking, what century are we
you
in?
are part of the sisterhood.
Where you've got a mom who's so Jane Austen's characters are less desperate than these young women. Here's Mandy Moore. Now her character's what, maybe 25 years old.
A grown-up, an adult.
Smart,
she runs her
successful,
own business.
Attractive, got all this going for her, and they're acting like, her mom is acting, if you don't get married within the next 6 months, you might as well kill yourself because you're a loser and a failure and you're going to end up alone. And I'm like, where does this come from? And 2 women wrote the screenplay for this film.
Yes, I know, and it was taking all the old elements. You know, she also, the Diane Keaton character does find a man her age, which was also sort of repetitive of Something's Gotta Give, and it just was sour.
This movie is dreadful. It is, I mean, in its own way, even worse on some level than Norbit, because it's trying to exist in some sort of authentic reflection of our times, whereas Norbit's just a comedy sketch that's gone wrong.
I think it is pandering to what they think the audience is.
Incredible. And directed by Michael Lehman, who did Heathers.
Yes.
And this is more hateful towards everybody in the world than that funny, interesting, dark black comedy.
Right on, sister.
I hate it. Thank you. And for once, I don't mind being called sister. We're going to move on now. The situation is a flawed, but I think strong effort to capture the madness that is Iraq in the 21st century. It begins with the war crime and ends with the senseless death of a good man caught in the crossfire of another meaningless battle in Iraq. Connie Nielsen plays Anna, an American journalist in Iraq who befriends an Iraqi family.
Did you support the war?
Yes. I thought Saddam was so bad that anything would be better than him.
But this is worse.
I know, but I couldn't imagine it.
The situation meanders from one storyline to another. When battles break out, it's almost impossible sometimes to figure out who's firing on whom and for what reason. Filmed in Morocco and written by a female journalist who wrote scores of articles from Iraq, The Situation does an admirable job of guiding us through an almost hopeless quagmire. But the dialogue sometimes rings painfully flat, and some of the more dramatic developments are telegraphed about 2 scenes in advance. Still, I'm recommending The Situation for at least partially succeeding in shedding some light on the war in Iraq through a kind of conventional fictional narrative. So again, with me, it's a marginal, mild, yet still thumbs up.
And so I would go with a marginal, mild thumbs down, only because everybody was more of a situation paper than a character. And I understand that this was the point. That's what they were trying to do. They were trying to lay out a lot of ambitious material, but it sounded like it. And I had a problem with that. Connie Nielsen, once again, we have the world's most beautiful journalist, just like they did in Blood Diamond. Suddenly, these girls with the streaming
nothing wrong
hair.
with that. I have no problem with that.
Thank you. Okay, well, then she's for you. There she is.
Connie Nielsen.
And she has a...
Wait until Lars from Metallica finds out that Connie Nielsen's for me, but that's a whole other story.
And she has a nice triangle relationship. It's all a little bit too neat, and as you say, the dialogue is clunky.
Melodramatic, I agree.
If you want to try and understand what Iraq is about, this is a good classroom lesson.
Lisa, I think it's a little bit better than that. I think the performances are strong. I agree that sometimes it's just, speechifying.
Lots of speechifying.
I think and I think some of the battle sequences are really well done, and you just see like the craziness that's going on in Iraq right now, and it's one of the first mainstream, I think, attempts to capture that.
And I think what does work is that you feel the hopelessness. You feel how much in knots this thing is and why it's in knots. Just explaining the different positions of the various Muslims, you understand why it's all in knots.
Exactly. And also, I think good work from Damian Lewis, who is always an interesting actor.
Always great to see him. Yeah.
Okay, coming up next, my pick for the best movie of 2006 in the Thumbs Up video segment. But first, here's a look at what Kevin Smith and I will be reviewing on next week's show.
What are you doing? But then, as you get to know the person, that's the lyric.
There's a real flag?
Yeah, ours was the replacement flag. We put it up when they took the other one down.
Looking at movies new on DVD, all getting thumbs up. Ryan Phillippe and Clint Eastwood's Flags of Our Fathers, Alison Lohman and Tim McGraw in Flicka. And coming out on Tuesday, Toby Jones and Sandra Bullock in Infamous. And Lisa, my video pick of the week is The Departed. It was my #1 movie of 2006.
I can't fault you on that. Great movie.
It's a great film. I got to tell you, when Michael Jordan was ruling the NBA, every once in a while they'd give the MVP to Karl Malone or Charles Barkley just because they got tired of giving it to Jordan. And I think the same thing happened this year with the Academy, not nominating Jack Nicholson because he's been nominated a gazillion times. But I thought this was one of his most authentic, hard-boiled portrayals in years. I thought he was great.
When I was your age, they would say we could become cops or criminals. Today, what I'm saying is this. When you're facing a loaded gun, what's the difference?
And I also think this is finally the year Scorsese's going to win Best Director.
My thumbs up video pick is Hollywoodland. Who knew that padded Superman underwear would work so well as career-saving wonderwear for Ben Affleck? The guy is great in the role of George Reeves, who in real life played Superman on TV and died under mysterious circumstances, feeling trapped, I guess you could say, by his fame.
We're canceled.
This is a generous, self-aware performance in a surprisingly smart movie.
I couldn't agree with you more, Lisa. I think that Affleck actually gave a nomination-worthy performance in this role. I was really glad to see him go back to reminding us of why he became a star in the first place. Yeah, he's a good actor. Okay, Hollywoodland is available now, and The Departed will be in stores on Tuesday, and we'll be back to recap this week's show right after this.
Closed captioning for Ebert and Roeper is sponsored by...
Okay, recapping the movies on this week's show. 2 thumbs way down for Norbit. We split on Factory Girl.
Because you need a lesson in the 60s, may I say?
Well, maybe so. I'm still thumbs up on it. 2 thumbs up for The Astronaut Farmer. That opens in 2 weeks. 2 thumbs way down for Because I Said So, because we said so. And we split on The Situation. And Lisa, thanks so much for joining us this week.
It's great to be here. It's an honor to warm Roger's chair here.
Well, I appreciate you coming. Thank you very much. Okay, that's it for this week's show. Until next week, the balcony is closed.
If you have a cold and high blood pressure, you should know decongestants can raise your blood pressure. Take decongestant-free Corsedin HBP. Powerful relief that won't raise your blood pressure.
I went up, and then down.
Kissimmee. Make more dreams come true.
It makes you go fast like this.
From Jennifer Convertibles, a Simmons microfiber sofa bed, just $2.99. Only at Jennifer, $2.99. Jennifer Convertibles, the only place to buy a sofa bed.
Net Zero gives you the fastest surfing available over dial-up and virus protection, starting at $9.95. Try it risk-free for 30 days with our money-back guarantee.